because I got caught or something to that effect. And he said, "Why are you in here?" And I said, "Well, I committed a crime and, you know, I got caught."
What's the purpose behind it?
And he said, "Why are you here?" And I remember and at this time I'm 24 maybe. So I'm a hothead, so I got really angry. So I got up to walk away. He was like, "Sit down." You know, he just yelled at me and it literally scared me. So I sat down. He said, "I want you to answer me, but I want you to think about it. Why are you here?" And it was like time I saw it just go all the way back to that Winn-Dixie when I was 6 years old, when my mother put that pack of pork chops in my jacket. And it was at that moment, I was like, my mother. All those years, I never thought anything about being manipulated. I just think I'm doing what my mother wanted me to do, I'm making her happy, and I'm getting everything I want. So it just never, you know, hit me that I was being manipulated. So that was probably the deepest depression I've been of, and that pulled me, well, I was coming out of it, but that really helped me understand why I was
That
in
it
it.
wasn't you.
That it wasn't me.
So, like, when you saying that the church folk told you that you was going home.
Right.
So did they pray and all that kind of stuff? And is
So
that what
I
they told
had
you?
joined a church because someone told me that this pastor could get me out of trouble after I got in court. Joined this holiness church, and I actually enjoyed going and had a lot of fun. You know, we had a powerful youth choir, we traveled, and it was great. And when I got sentenced, I was like, well, there was no help he could do, you know. And then I knew I was going to get one parole turned down because I was a repeat offender. So I knew that was coming. I expected that. But when the second one came up, the church, they're saying, "God told me that you're going to come home and, you know, blah, blah, blah." So I had built my hopes up on, I'm
Right.
going home. There was nothing anyone could say to me that I wasn't going home. And my friend at the time was like, "Listen, these white folk ain't giving parole. You need to get that out your head. You going to do this time." And I was like, "No, I'm going home." And it was like, you ain't going home. They're not going to let you go home like this. Because what happened was, the Republican office had taken over the government of Virginia at that time. So Doug Wilder finished his term and George Allen came in, and his number one rule that I remembered was abolish parole. Even though I was under the old law, I was still treated like I was under the new law. So the parole percentage went from 60+% down to 2 to 3%.
Wow.
And so the only time they were issuing parole was for people that had been in there a very long time with good institutional records. So it was like, you are not going home. Don't you know, prepare yourself to max this sentence out. And I was like, no, I'm going home. So of course, that was like adding insult to injury when the parole turn down came.
So what was the sentence? The second.
I had 2 5-year sentences that was running concurrently or consecutively.
Okay.
I got one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you ever lose faith in the church and in God because of the fact that they told you that you were going to come out of there and all that kind of stuff and prophesy to you and say, "Oh, God told me to tell you that, oh, you're gonna get out of there." So did you ever lose your faith in the church and in God because of that?
No, because I always know where my help comes from.
Yeah.
But I did believe there was a lot of false prophecy going on, you know. And that was a life lesson for me, learned early on that everybody can't give you a word. But I always had that with him. I never blamed him because I didn't
Right.
know. Because it was also at that time I always tried to take ownership of my responsibility in things. And I also had to understand that as a teenager, I could have stopped. You know, but it was deeply in me.
Yeah.
I had all this money coming in, and I was, it was deeply rooted. So it was so deeply rooted. I used to eat the cup of noodle soups and the chicken franks. That was my meal, you know. And a friend of mine and I were in the grocery store, and I was going with my baskets, figuring out how I'm gonna get this out of the store. And then we go to the register. I hand the lady a 20, and she's pretty much the only friend I have from back during those times. And we laugh about that today. That woman reached for the 20, and I was literally not letting it go. And she had to smack my hand to make me let it go. Because at the time, my mind was still turning, how am I going to get this out of the store? You know, I didn't want to pay for anything.
Had money.
Yeah,
So-
had money and just
Still didn't want
loved
pay
to
for
travel
it.
and party with my money. I didn't want to pay for anything. Because when I walked in the store, my ego was so enormous, it was mine.
Because you can't get caught.
Right. And the more I got away with, the more I thought I could get away with. So when I went in a store, if it went in a basket, it was going out. And I didn't deal with cheap things, you know.
Right.
I broke my rule, and those are the times that I got caught.
Wow.
breaking my rule for people that wanted cheap things. If I couldn't make at least $100 from it, I didn't deal with it. And then I also didn't deal with things where I would deal with just one single payment. So if I'm going to get something for you, oh, it's going to be a whole lot of stuff because I was coming out of a store with $3,000 and $4,000 worth of merchandise at a time.
Wow.
Wow. Lord Jesus. I remember, y'all remember Colbert's?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom had this boosting friend that would go to Colbert's. That's how I got my prom dress from Colbert's.
Look, don't knock that hustle.
But look, what's so
I appreciated him.
okay. But what's so funny is that when I read the book, it played like a TV show in my head. To where like when I was a sophomore in high school and I'm talking about I'm on the radio, and so any of my friends listen, they will tell you. I went to it was Foley's back then.
Come on, Foley's.
And like when Hilfiger and Guess was popping, I'm talking about like you couldn't tell me nothing about I had a spiral. Excuse me. I had a spiral in my locker of what people wanted. And I would come back to school.
Listen, back then.
But I just knew I couldn't do. I just couldn't.
So there was a store that I hit from 1988 until I got caught. Well, after my first 19-month sentence, and then I came back and I went harder until I got caught again in 1992. I was hitting this store 2 and 3 times a week. I had a friend checking me out of high school.
Wow.
Supposed to go up there to hit this store,
Oh my God.
and I would hit this store so hard that it was ridiculous. When I got caught, I had over 300 pair of shoes, and I had a closet full of coats. I had so much stuff. It was ridiculous. And, you know, my nieces and nephews had all their school clothes at all times. And anyone that went with me always took care of her. So it was always whatever her boyfriend, child, and father, whatever. It was my stuff. That's how I looked. It was my stuff.
I want to ask a question.
Mhm.
So, at the time when you were doing what you were doing for your mom, how did you feel?
Good. Because,
You were helping her.
well, not only that, I was also getting everything I wanted. And I was always envied for that by people because no one knew what I was doing and knew I wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, how is he doing this? You
You
never
provide.
see him in the same
Yeah.
thing more than once. I had a car, nice car, and I'm just living
Just
the life.
home.
And I'm in this country town. Halifax, Virginia is a country town. So I'm in this, it's about 2 hours north of Richmond, Virginia.
Like Mechanicsville, like it's close to that, or it's further than that.
It's like near Roxborough, North Carolina
Okay.
state line, Danville, Martinsville.
Okay.
So in that town, everybody knows everybody's business. You know, but for them to see me, they didn't know how I was doing this. Even now, for people there that's read the book, they were like, some of my people in high school, we had no idea that you were doing all of this. So it was, I had an ego. And with this ego, it was, listen, it was mine.
Wow. Okay.
That you came
You
out
all
of
right
it.
over there?
Yeah. So, did you want to follow that, or you?
You want to? You can ask it.
Okay. So, your mother, do you still have a relationship with her?
No, I don't. So when this revelation came while I was incarcerated, I knew this wasn't something that I could address in the visiting room. So I waited until I came home.
Okay.
And we had this conversation probably about a month after I was home. And she denied it all. And I'm looking around her house, seeing things that I
That you
boosted when
done.
I was 11 years old. I'm thinking, well, how in the world did you get this right here? And, you know, are you not in the reality that I'm in? And it was at that moment I understood. It was like another flashback through time. My mother has never apologized for anything she's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
She only takes credit for stuff she done that's good. You know, if she's done something bad, it's always someone else's fault. So I knew then our relationship would never be the same. But I still tried to be a good son. She was mad, you know, I wasn't doing the hustle anymore. So she was mad, so she wanted all my money. You know, I had gotten a job at a plant making $5.95 an hour. I had gotten a car, and I'm trying to, you know, build my life and grow. And it just became, we just argued all the time. And then, so I would just still try to give her everything for Christmas or birthday and Mother's Day, you know. And then one day, she liked to collect these whatnot type things. So I went to the store and bought her this really nice crystal pitcher with glasses, matching glasses, and she called it a Kool-Aid pitcher and just criticized it. So I said, okay. So the next year, I gave her a really nice cow neck sweater. She criticized that. So then we went to greeting cards. And then she criticized that, so then we just stopped. I stopped giving her anything. Because up until this day, I've been home over 16 years now, I have not gotten one Christmas gift from her. Everybody else get gifts. I get nothing, but I'll get you when I go back to work and get my Christmas bonus. But that never happened. So right before I moved here, I reached a decision that our relationship was never going to be the same because she still had that mindset that I needed to take care of everything she wanted me to take care of. And I just felt like, okay, so you still want to use me for the rest of my life, and that's not going to happen. So we haven't spoken in over 2 years.
So is she here?
No, she lives in Virginia.
She's in Virginia. Okay.
What about your father?
We so didn't like him, hated him, and then in 2002, my best friend had recently lost her dad, and she said, "Victor, do not leave this earth without making amends with your father, because your issues are not your issues; they're issues between your parents." So I ended up writing him a letter, mailing it one day, and we ended up seeing each other by accident. And we picked the ball up and we ran with it. And that put me back in touch with my family in Philadelphia, my aunts, my grandmother. I hadn't seen them since I was 7. So that was just great. And we had such a great relationship. I would go up to his house, him and my stepmom. They would cook for me. And, we just had a really great relationship. And then I started having back issues from a car accident in 2008 where I had to have my second surgery. And I was rushed to the hospital from a spasm attack from work. And he was listed as my emergency contact. And then HR called him, and he and my stepmom came down. My best friend and her mother came from Virginia. My friend followed the ambulance from work. They worked with me. And then she called 2 of my gay friends who are not flamboyant. One is in banking, one worked at Goodyear. And non-flamboyant, just, they came and they spoke to everybody they knew. They were introduced to him and my stepmom, and he kind of just fell back. And I'm in pain at this time. They're trying to sedate me, so I didn't understand any of what was going on. And then he stopped answering his phone after I got out of the hospital. He didn't come back to the hospital to see me, and he stopped answering his phone. And his phone is like his toy, so he always answered that phone, and he always called me. And then, so about a year later, I started getting rumors from people, your dad said you had 2 sisters in the hospital with you. And I was like, no, I had 2 friends in the hospital with me, but I also had other friends, so why were they the only 2 spoken of?
Yeah.
And that apparently was his reason for stopping speaking to me. And he knew, though, but he already knew I was gay. We had a conversation about it. And he said, as long as you're not doing anything to disrespect the family name and you're taking care of your business and, you're not out here wilding out, I'm okay with it. But I guess seeing 2 friends, it was too much fun.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I can understand if it was a boyfriend and he was in there all over me or whatever, but these were 2 friends, and they were literally there 2 minutes. They came in and their question was, what can we do? And my friend Carolyn said, we got to go get his car and garage it at my house. And they left, and that was it.
Wow.
What about your sister?
So my older sister and I have never had a relationship. We never got along. Even as kids, we hated each other.
Was she stealing as well?
She's still living, yeah.
No, was she stealing?
All 3 of us were.
Okay.
Yeah. But because I was the mama's boy, I did everything my mother wanted me to do. I was the one catering to her. They were kind of doing their own thing for themselves. My little sister and I started having a good relationship when we became, probably when I was on my 2nd prison sentence, because she would come see me all the time, and we were great until 2012. She fell in love with someone who was in prison, which, that's your thing, do what you want to do. But then she started to neglect her only child for this man, and I had a problem with that. And when I voiced that opinion, it became an issue. So we haven't spoken since then.
So you don't speak to any of your family?
My immediate family, no.
And you know what? That's why when we all see each other, like all of us, like literally, are like, that's why we act like family.
Yeah.
It's just
Because I have put friends in that family roles.
You had to.
And I had to sustain my sanity. Because I have my first cousin on my dad's side I'm real close with. She and I, once we connected back with my dad and I started speaking, we're still, thick as thieves today. And then on my mom's side, I have a first cousin and then a second cousin I'm really, really close with. But, I have an uncle that I'm cool with when I see him. But that's pretty much it.
I'm looking for a song.
Are you all gonna be okay? Cause
Man,
Oh, you know I'm fine.
it's gonna get deeper. I think it gets a little deeper. I don't know what your questions are, but it gets
I
deeper.
want to get into the sexuality part.
Okay.
When did you know? When were you comfortable?
At 5, I knew I was looking at men and didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew I had a certain attraction for men.
Okay.
I didn't, even today, I probably still struggle with fully accepting it.
Okay.
Because I think it's one of those things where I've always tried to make everybody happy. I don't like chaos. And knowing that my dad don't like it, I don't think my aunts like it. It's one of those situations where it's like, okay, if I could just change. And I have those moments sometimes where I'm thinking, but then I thought about it and I come out of that because I'm thinking if it wasn't that, it'd be something else. You
So
know.
before we get too deep, let me go ahead and play a song. We're gonna take a breather for a minute, and then we will be right back. So I'm about to play "Turning Me Up" by BJ the Chicago Kid.
I love him.
I know, right?
He's
awesome.
dope. Yep, he's real dope.
Here we go.
I finished it. Is that okay?